The massive space station hung in the darkness like a giant metal city. Inside its biggest room, hundreds of alien beings sat in rows of floating chairs. Their strange eyes all looked down at one small platform in the center. The platform was made of blue crystal that glowed with soft light. John Blake walked slowly toward the platform. His hands were tied behind his back with energy chains that hummed quietly. Two tall alien guards with gray skin and forearms walked beside him. Their weapons clicked against their metal armor with each step. Blake was human. He came from a small blue planet called Earth. For 3 long years, he had lived on this station. He had learned to speak alien languages. He had eaten their strange food. He had tried to make friends with beings who looked like insects, lizards, and things that had no name in human words. All of this was so his people could join the galactic community. Humans were new to space. They had only been traveling between stars for 20 years. Most aliens had been doing this for thousands of years. Blake stopped at the edge of the crystal platform. He looked up at the High Council. 12 beings from the most powerful species in the galaxy sat on a curved bench high above him. Their voices had decided his fate just minutes ago. "John Blake of Earth," spoke High Counselor Mordeth. His voice came through a translator device that made it sound cold and emotionless. "You have been found guilty of murdering High Counselor Vexthara of the Zilani Empire. Do you have any final words?" Blake took a deep breath. He knew this was all wrong. He had been in his room sleeping when Vexthara died. The security cameras should have proved this. But somehow, those recordings had been destroyed. Somehow, his energy weapon had been found next to the body. Somehow, his fingerprints were on it. He knew who really did it. The Krillian Empire had wanted Vexthara dead for months. She had been planning to make a treaty with Earth. The Krillians hated this idea. They thought humans were dangerous. They thought humans would upset the balance of power in the galaxy, but Blake could not prove any of this. The evidence against him was too strong. The other council members had voted quickly. Only 3 beings had voted to spare his life. Blake looked around the huge chamber. In the viewing areas, he could see aliens from hundreds of different worlds. Some looked sad. Others looked angry. A few looked happy to see a human about to die. He spotted the cameras that were recording everything. He knew this video would be sent to Earth. His wife would see it. His children would see it. Every human in the colonies would watch there first. "Ambassador Dai, yes," Blake said finally. His voice was steady and strong. "I have words for this council and for the galaxy." The chamber became completely quiet. Even the soft hum of the life support system seemed to stop. "I did not kill Vexthara," Blake said. "She was my friend. She believed that humans could be good members of this community. She was murdered by those who fear change, by those who want to keep power for themselves." Some aliens in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. The Krillian delegation sat perfectly. Still, their leader, Admiral Zethkar, watched Blake with cold black eyes. Blake continued, "For 3 years I have tried to show you that humans are not monsters. We are not the violent savages you think we are. We want peace. We want to learn. We want to help make the galaxy a better place." He paused and looked directly at the cameras. "But do not mistake our desire for peace as weakness. Humanity will remember this injustice. We will remember that our first ambassador was murdered by cowards and then executed by those too blind to see the truth." The High Counselor raised one of his many hands. "Enough. Step onto the platform." Blake walked onto the crystal surface. It felt warm under his feet. Energy fields hummed to life around him. These fields would hold him in place while the execution beam did its work. "We are not the violent species you believe us to be," Blake said, looking up at the council one last time. "But we are not weak either." High Counselor Mordeth pressed a button on his control panel. A bright white beam shot down from the ceiling. It hit Blake in the center of his chest. For a moment, he seemed to glow with the same white light. Then he was gone. Nothing remained on the platform except a small pile of gray dust. The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens cheered. Others shouted in anger. The Krillian delegation looked pleased with themselves. They had gotten what they wanted. Far away on the planet Earth, President Lisa Carter sat in her office watching the live broadcast. Her face was stone cold as she watched John Blake disappear. Around her, government officials and military leaders stood in shocked silence. Carter reached for her communication device. "Get me Admiral Morrison," she said. Her voice was quiet but filled with steel. "And call an emergency session of the Global Defense Council." As the news spread across Earth and its colonies, something began to change in the human spirit. For decades, they had looked up at the stars with wonder and hope. They had dreamed of joining the great galactic civilization. They had imagined learning from older, wiser species. Now they understood the truth. The galaxy was not filled with wise elders who would welcome them. It was controlled by the same kind of bullies and power-hungry leaders that humans had fought against throughout their history. Blake's death had been meant to humble humanity, to show them their place in the galactic order. Instead, it had awakened something far more dangerous than the aliens could imagine. In military bases across the solar system, human soldiers watched the execution footage and felt their blood boil. In secret shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, workers began building ships designed for war instead of exploration. In government halls, diplomats who had preached peace began talking about justice. John Blake had died believing in the possibility of a peaceful galaxy. His death had just made that peace impossible. The aliens had wanted to show humans their place in the universe. Soon, they would learn exactly what that place was. Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and watched his crew work. The ship was hidden inside a large asteroid near Jupiter. Outside the thick metal walls, space was cold and dark. But inside, hundreds of people worked, day and night to prepare for war. The Retribution was not like the beautiful alien ships that humans had seen in the galactic fleet. Those ships had smooth curves and bright colors. They looked like art pieces floating through space. The Retribution looked like what it was, a weapon built to kill. The ship was gray and angular. Its armor was made from the hardest metals that Earth could produce. Large guns stuck out from its sides like the spines of some angry beast. At the front, a sharp ram could punch through enemy hulls. At the back, powerful engines could push the ship faster than most alien vessels. Turner had been a Navy captain. Before humans learned about aliens, he had commanded submarines in Earth's oceans. He understood how to fight in 3 dimensions. He knew how to hunt enemies who could not see him coming. "Captain," said Lieutenant Emma Davis from her weapons station. "The new plasma cannons are ready for testing," Turner nodded. "Take us to the test range." The Retribution moved slowly out of the asteroid field. In the distance, old satellites and pieces of space junk waited to be destroyed. These targets would help the crew learn how to use their new weapons. "Fire when ready," Turner said. Davis pressed several buttons. A bright blue beam shot from the ship's main gun. It hit an old satellite and turned it into glowing vapor in seconds. The alien shields that humans had captured and studied would not stop weapons like this. "Good shot," Turner said. "But we need to do better. The aliens have had thousands of years to practice. We have had 3 months." On the moon, Europa, Colonel Katie Barnes watched her soldiers train in the low gravity. These men and women had come from every country on Earth. Some had been Marines. Others had been special forces. A few had been regular soldiers who volunteered. For this mission, they all shared one thing: they were angry about John Blake's death. "Move faster!" Barnes shouted as her troops practiced fighting in spacesuits. The aliens breathed different air. You will be fighting them on their ships, in their atmosphere. Every second counts. The soldiers carried weapons that looked strange compared to Earth guns. These new rifles could fire different types of ammunition depending on what they were. Fighting, regular bullets for soft targets. Explosive rounds for armored enemies. Energy bolts for machines and electronics. Private Ryan Clark was only 19 years old. He had joined the Space Marines right after watching Blake's execution on television. "Colonel?" he asked during a break in training. "What if the aliens are stronger than us?" Barnes looked at the young soldier. "They might be stronger. They might be smarter. They might have better technology, but they have never fought anyone like us. She pointed up at the earth, which was visible through the dome overhead. Every human alive comes from that planet. Do you know what makes our planet special, Clark? No, ma'am. It tries to kill everything that lives on it. Earthquakes, volcanoes, storms, ice ages, diseases, predators. For millions of years, our ancestors survived by being tougher, faster, and meaner than everything else. The aliens come from safe, comfortable worlds. They have never had to fight for their lives every single day. Barnes smiled grimly. They are about to learn what evolution looks like when it happens on a death world. In a secret laboratory on Mars, Dr. Paul Jenkins worked with a team of scientists to understand alien technology. They had pieces of Krillian ships that had been captured by human spies. They had energy weapons taken from alien traders. They had computer files stolen from galactic databases. "Look at this," Jenkins said to his assistant, Dr. Helen Wright. He pointed at a screen showing the design of an alien shield generator. Their shields stop energy weapons by matching the frequency of the incoming beam. But they can only handle one frequency at a time. Wright studied the data. What happens if we hit them with multiple frequencies at once? The shield computer gets confused, Jenkins said with a grin. It tries to stop everything and ends up stopping nothing. Wright looked excited. Our plasma weapons naturally produce a wide range of frequencies. We could overload their shields without even trying. Exactly. The aliens think we are primitive because we still use kinetic weapons, bullets and missiles. They stopped using those thousands of years ago, but their shields were never designed to stop a simple piece of metal moving at high speed. The two scientists worked through the night, finding more weaknesses in alien technology. The galactic powers had grown lazy and comfortable. They had not fought a real war in centuries. Their weapons and defenses were designed for polite battles between civilized species they had never faced. Enemies who were willing to use any method necessary to win. Commander Gary Phillips ran the intelligence division from a base hidden in the asteroid belt. His team of hackers and spies had been busy since Blake's death. They intercepted alien communications, broke their codes, and learned their secrets. "Sir," said Lieutenant Sandra Lee, looking up from her computer, "I have intercepted a message from the Krillian High Command to their fleet commanders." Phillips walked over to read the message. His face grew dark as he translated the alien text. "What does it say?" Lee asked. "They are bragging about killing Blake," Phillips said. "They are telling their commanders that the human threat has been eliminated. They think we will hide on Earth and never bother them again." Lee shook her head. "They really do not understand us at all." "No," Phillips agreed. "They think we are just another weak species that can be bullied into submission. They are about to learn how wrong they are." The message also contained other important information. It showed the locations of Krillian military bases. It revealed which alien species supported them and which ones were neutral. Most importantly, it proved that Blake had been murdered as part of a planned conspiracy. Phillips sent this information to Earth immediately. President Carter would want to see proof that humanity's cause was just across the solar system. 50 ships like the Retribution took shape in hidden shipyards. Each one was crewed by volunteers who had watched their ambassador die. Each one carried weapons designed to punch through alien defenses. Each one was ready to show the galaxy that humanity would not be pushed around. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center on Luna base and watched reports come in from all over the solar system. His fleet was almost ready. His soldiers were trained. His scientists had found the alien weaknesses. "Sir," said his aide, Captain Ben Carter, "President Carter is asking when we will be ready to launch." Morrison looked at the star charts on his wall. Somewhere out there, the Krillians were celebrating Blake's death. They thought they had won. "Tell the president we launch in 1 week," Morrison said. "It is time to show the galaxy what happens when you murder a human ambassador." The aliens had executed John Blake to send a message. Soon, humanity would send a message of their own. It would be written in plasma fire and delivered at the speed of light. The human fleet appeared at the edge of Krillian space like ghosts coming out of a nightmare. 50 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Their gray hulls reflected the light of the distant Krillian sun. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Justice. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew this was the moment they had trained for. This was when humanity would show the galaxy what they were really made of. Communications, Morrison said. Open a channel to the Krillian Defense Fleet. Channel open, sir, replied Lieutenant Nina Foster. Morrison's voice carried across space to every ship in the system. This is Admiral Morrison of the United Earth Space Force. By order of the Earth government, you are commanded to surrender those responsible for the murder of Ambassador John Blake. You have 1 hour to comply. On the bridge of the Krillian flagship Doombringer, Admiral Zethkar laughed when he heard the human message. Around him, his officers clicked their mandibles in amusement. The Krillians looked like giant insects with black shells and multiple arms. They had been warriors for thousands of years. 50 primitive ships against 300 of ours, Zethkar said to his weapons officer. This will be over quickly. He activated his own communication system. Human Admiral, you are greatly outnumbered. Return to your little planet before we destroy you. Your species has already lost 1 ambassador. Do not make us destroy your entire fleet. Morrison's response was calm and cold. We did not come here to negotiate, Admiral. We came here for justice. Since you will not surrender the murderers, we will take them by force. Zethkar's amusement turned to anger. You dare threaten the Krillian Empire? We have conquered 100 worlds. We have destroyed species that were old when your planet was young. You are nothing but barbarians with stolen technology. Then come and stop us, Morrison replied. The Krillian fleet moved forward in a traditional battle formation. Their ships were beautiful to look at, sleek and curved like giant metal flowers. Bright energy shields glowed around each vessel. Their weapons charged with visible power. Captain Alex Turner watched the alien fleet approach on his ship's main screen. The Retribution was positioned on the left flank of the human formation. His crew was ready for battle. They are moving just like the computer predicted, said Lieutenant Emma Davis from her weapons station. Same formation they have used for centuries, Turner nodded. That is their weakness. They think war is a dance with rules. They are about to learn that humans do not dance. The Krillian ships opened fire when they reached optimal range. Bright energy beams lanced across space toward the human fleet. The aliens expected to see human ships explode in brilliant fireballs. Instead, the energy beams splashed harmlessly against human armor. The metal hulls absorbed the heat and scattered the energy. A few ships took minor damage, but none were destroyed. Their weapons are designed to fight other energy-based defenses, Turner explained to his crew. But our armor is just thick metal, heat disperses. Energy spreads out, basic physics. Now it was humanity's turn. All ships, Morrison commanded. Open fire. The human fleet unleashed hell. Plasma cannons sent superheated death across the void. Kinetic weapons launched metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missile tubes fired clouds of smart projectiles that could think for themselves. The first volley hit the Krillian fleet like a hammer blow. Energy shields that had protected alien ships for millennia simply vanished. The shields tried to stop the incoming weapons, but became overloaded by the multiple frequency attacks. Metal slugs punched through alien hulls like bullets through paper. In the first 30 seconds of battle, 20 Krillian ships exploded. Admiral Zethkar stared at his tactical display in shock. Impossible, he whispered. Their weapons should not be able to penetrate our shields. His tactical officer, a younger Krillian named Veximer, looked up from his console. Sir, their projectile weapons are moving at near light speed. Our shields cannot track objects that fast, and their energy weapons are using random frequencies. Our computers cannot adapt. Then adapt manually, Zethkar shouted. We still outnumber them 6-1, but the numbers were changing quickly. Human ships moved through space like hunting predators. They did not stay in formation like civilized fleets. Instead, they spread out and attacked from multiple angles. They used the asteroid fields and space debris as cover. They fought like pirates instead of proper military forces. Captain Turner brought the retribution in close to a group of Krillian destroyers. His ship's ram punched through the first alien hull before the enemy could react. The second destroyer tried to flee, but Turner's plasma cannons melted its engines. The third managed to fire a few shots before kinetic rounds turned it into scrap metal. "This is too easy," Davis said as she targeted another enemy ship. "They fight like they are afraid to get their ships dirty." Turner smiled grimly. "They probably are. These ships are works of art to them. They cannot imagine ramming into an enemy or using their vessel as a weapon. That is what happens when you get soft." Across the battlefield, other human captains were having similar success. Colonel Katie Barnes led a boarding party onto a damaged Krillian cruiser. Her Marines moved through the alien corridors with deadly efficiency. The Krillian defenders had never faced enemies who fought with such brutal intensity. "They keep trying to surrender," reported Sergeant Ryan Clark over the radio. "But we are not taking prisoners until we get the ones responsible for Blake's death." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Krillian defense fleet was destroyed. Only a handful of ships escaped to hyperspace, the orbital defense platforms. Around the Krillian homeworld were silent, their weapons destroyed by long-range missile strikes. Admiral Morrison's fleet hung in space above the alien planet like avenging angels. The surface below was home to billions of Krillians. They had never seen enemy ships in their sky before. Morrison opened a communication channel to the planet. "People of Krillia, this is Admiral Morrison of Earth. We have destroyed your fleet, but we are not here to conquer your world. We want only those responsible for murdering our ambassador. Surrender Admiral Zethkar and his co-conspirators, and we will leave in peace." The response came from the planetary government within an hour. They would hand over the war criminals in exchange for human mercy. As human Marines took custody of the aliens who had killed Blake, Morrison broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. Every species with communication equipment heard his words. "This is Admiral Morrison speaking for all of humanity. We came to you in peace through Ambassador Blake. You murdered him based on lies and fear. Today, we have shown you the price of that injustice. Humanity offers friendship to those who deserve it, and we will give justice to those who do not. The choice is yours." The galaxy would never be the same. The young species from the small blue planet had announced their arrival not with words, but with plasma fire and kinetic rounds. They had faced the mighty Krillian Empire and won. Now, every alien government had to decide would they be humanity's friend or enemy. The answer would determine the future of galactic civilization. News of the Krillian defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, alien leaders watched the battle recordings with growing fear. The humans had not just won, they had made it look easy. Captain Nina Foster commanded the UES Vengeance as it hunted through the Outer Rim. This was the lawless edge of galactic space where pirates and criminals hid from justice. Several Krillian war criminals had escaped the main battle and fled here. "Captain," said Lieutenant Gary Phillips from his sensor station, "I am picking up engine signatures. 3 ships hiding behind that asteroid." Foster studied the tactical display. The ships were trying to stay hidden, but human sensors were better than they expected. "Can you identify them?" "Yes, ma'am. One of them is Admiral Zethkar's personal cruiser. The other 2 are escort vessels." Foster smiled coldly. Zethkar was the Krillian who had planned Blake's murder. He was also the one who had mocked humanity during the recent battle. Now he was running like a scared animal. "Take us in," Foster ordered, "but keep us hidden. I want to see what they are doing here." The Vengeance moved silently through the asteroid field. Human ships were designed to be hard to detect when they wanted to be. The crew watched as the Krillian ships approached. A large space station. The station was ugly and rough-looking. It was nothing like the clean, beautiful structures that civilized aliens built. This place was clearly run by criminals. "My God, whispered Dr. Helen Wright, the ship's science officer. "Look at the life signs on that station." Foster turned to look at Wright's screen. The readings showed thousands of beings packed into small spaces. Most of them were not getting enough food or clean air. "Slaves," Foster said grimly. "That station is full of slaves." Lieutenant Phillips checked his computer records. According to galactic law, slavery was banned 3,000 years ago. But these readings clearly show forced labor. Then galactic law does not reach out here, Foster replied. "Send a message to Admiral Morrison. Tell him what we found. Then contact those ships and demand they surrender?" But the Krillians had spotted the human vessel. Zethkar-S cruiser and its escorts tried to flee deeper into the asteroid field. They moved fast, but human ships were faster. The chase lasted 2 hours. Foster's crew used every trick they had learned to hunt down the fleeing criminals. Finally, the Krillian ships were cornered against a large asteroid with no way to escape. "Admiral Zethkar," Foster said over the communication system. "This is Captain Foster of the Earth Space Force. You are under arrest for war crimes. Surrender now or we will take you by force." Zethkar-S response was full of anger and fear. "You humans are savages. You have no right to hunt us. We are a civilized species with thousands of years of culture." "Then act civilized," Foster replied. "Surrender and face trial for your crimes." Instead of surrendering, the Krillian ships opened fire. Their weapons were weaker than the main fleet, but they were still dangerous. Energy beams lanced out at the Vengeance. Foster's ship dodged the first shots and returned fire with its plasma cannons. The human weapons tore through Krillian shields like they were made of paper. One escort ship exploded immediately. The second tried to ram the Vengeance, but was destroyed by kinetic rounds. Zethkar-S cruiser was tougher, but not tough enough. Foster ordered her Marines to board the damaged vessel and capture the alien admiral alive. Colonel Katie Barnes led the boarding party through the broken hull of the Krillian ship. Her soldiers moved through the corridors in their heavy armor, searching for survivors. They found Zethkar hiding in his personal quarters, trying to destroy computer files that would prove his guilt. "Stop right there," Barnes ordered, pointing her weapon at the alien admiral. Zethkar looked up at the human soldiers with his large black eyes. "You cannot do this. I demand to be treated according to galactic law." "You will be," Barnes replied. "The same law you ignored when you murdered Ambassador Blake." While Foster's crew was hunting war criminals, other human ships were making an even more shocking discovery. Captain Ben Carter commanded the UES Freedom on a patrol near the galactic core. His mission was to look for more evidence of Krillian crimes. What he found was much worse than anyone expected. "Captain," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Laver Mitchell, "I am receiving distress signals from the Kepler system. Multiple species are calling for help." Carter ordered his ship to investigate. When they arrived, they found a mining operation that stretched across 3 planets. Massive machines were stripping away entire mountains to get at valuable metals underneath, but the workers were not machines or paid employees. They were slaves from dozens of different species, beings who looked like lizards, birds, and creatures that had no Earth equivalent. All of them were working in terrible conditions without proper food or medical care. "This is impossible," said Dr. Sandra Lee, the ship's medical officer. "According to galactic records, all these species are supposed to be free and independent." Carter studied the files on his computer. "But they are not represented on the Galactic Council. Their worlds do not have voting rights. As far as the law is concerned, they do not exist." The human captain realized the horrible truth. The galactic government was not the peaceful democracy it pretended to be. It was controlled by a few powerful species who used everyone else as slaves and resources. "Sir," said Lieutenant Mitchell, "should we contact the local authorities?" Carter looked at the images of suffering beings on his screen. "We are the authorities now. Launch the Marines. Free those people." The rescue operation took 3 days. Human soldiers fought through automated defenses and security robots to reach the slave camps. When they opened the prison doors, thousands of grateful aliens poured out. Many of the rescued slaves had never seen humans before. But they quickly learned that these strange beings from Earth were different from their former masters, Private. Ryan Clark helped carry an injured Vorthan to the medical station. The Vorthans looked like large blue cats with 6 legs. This one had been working in the mines for 15 years. "Why do you help us?" the alien asked in broken galactic common language. "What do you gain from our freedom?" Clark thought about the question. "Where we come from, freedom is something that belongs to everyone. Nobody should be a slave." The Vorthan's large eyes filled with tears. "Your species is very young, but you understand things that old species have forgotten." Admiral Morrison received reports from across the galaxy as human ships found more slave operations. The scope of the crime was massive. Billions of beings were working as unpaid labor for the civilized galactic powers on Earth. President Lisa Carter called an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. The discovery of galactic slavery had changed everything. "We came out here to get justice for John Blake," Carter said to the assembled leaders. "But we have found something much bigger. The entire galactic government is built on lies and oppression." General Jake Morrison, the Admiral's brother, stood up from his seat. "What are our orders, Madam President?" Carter looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. 3 months ago, these people had been worried about joining galactic civilization. Now they were being asked to reform it. "Free them all," Carter said firmly. "Every slave, every oppressed world, every species that has been silenced by the powerful. If the galaxy will not give justice, then we will take it." The word went out to every human ship in space. Their mission had expanded beyond hunting war criminals. Now they were fighting to free an entire galaxy from thousands of years of hidden slavery. The aliens had thought they were facing a small, angry species seeking revenge. They were about to learn that they had awakened something much more dangerous: humans fighting for the freedom of others. 1 year after John Blake's execution, the galaxy looked completely different. The old Galactic Council building had been torn down and rebuilt. The new structure was 3 times larger and filled with representatives from hundreds of species that had never been allowed to speak before. Captain Ben Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Justice as it approached the new council station. The ship carried Ambassador Mary Collins, who would speak for humanity in the reformed government. Collins had been Blake's student and closest friend. She knew what he would have wanted to see. "Look at that," said Lieutenant Lover Mitchell, pointing at the viewing screen. "Ships from every corner of the galaxy." Carter smiled as he watched the massive fleet of vessels surrounding the station. There were human ships with their gray armor and sharp angles, but there were also ships from the Vorthans, the Altarians, the Zolani, and dozens of other species that had been freed from slavery. Many of these species had become strong allies of humanity. The Vorthans were natural engineers who helped improve human technology. The Altarians were peaceful scholars who shared their knowledge freely. The Zolani had powerful weapons that they now used to protect the weak instead of oppressing them. Together, they had formed the Free Galactic Alliance. This new organization was nothing like the old council. Every species had a voice, no matter how young or small. Decisions were made by voting, not by the demands of the strongest. Ambassador Collins stood in her quarters, preparing for the most important speech of her life. She looked at a picture of John Blake on her desk. He was smiling in the photo, taken during happier times when he still believed the galaxy could be peaceful. "I hope this is what you wanted, John," she said quietly. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. Carter entered the room with news from Earth. "Ambassador, I just received word from President Carter. The war crimes trials are finished. Admiral Zethkar and his co-conspirators have been found guilty. They will spend the rest of their lives in prison." Collins nodded. Justice for Blake's murder was important, but it was only the beginning. The real work was building a better galaxy. "What about the Syndicate worlds?" Collins asked. Carter's expression grew serious. "Most of them have agreed to join the new alliance. The hegemony of five is still holding out, but they are completely surrounded. Their own people are starting to rebel. The hegemony of five had been the main supporters of the old system. They were the species that had profited most from galactic slavery. When humanity began freeing their workers, these governments had tried to fight back, but their military forces were no match for the combined fleets of the Free Alliance. More importantly, their own citizens had seen what freedom looked like and wanted it for themselves. In the main council chamber, thousands of beings from across the galaxy waited for the ceremony to begin. The room was filled with creatures of every imaginable shape and size. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others needed special suits to survive in the station's atmosphere, but they all shared one thing. They were free. Admiral Jake Morrison sat in the human delegation section, wearing his dress uniform. Beside him sat the other human leaders who had fought to liberate the galaxy. Captain Turner was there, along with Colonel Barnes and Dr. Wright. They had all played their part in the revolution. Morrison looked around the vast chamber and remembered the old council that had condemned Blake to death. That room had been smaller and filled only with the powerful. This new chamber was built to hold everyone who wanted to speak. Citizens of the galaxy, Collins said as she stepped up to the speaking platform. 1 year ago, Ambassador John Blake died in this place. He was executed for a crime he did not commit by a government that ruled through fear and oppression. The chamber fell silent. Many of the beings present had watched Blake's execution on their homeworlds. Some had cheered at the time, believing the lies they were told. Now they understood the truth. Blake died believing that different species could work together in peace, Collins continued. He believed that the strong should protect the weak, not exploit them. He believed that every thinking being deserved freedom and dignity. Collins paused and looked around the chamber. Today we honor his memory by creating the galaxy he dreamed of. A place where justice matters more than power. Where the young can speak alongside the old. Where no being is forced to serve another against their will. The chamber erupted in cheers and applause. Hundreds of different languages created a symphony of celebration. Captain LeVar Mitchell commanded the new patrol ship UES Blake as it traveled through the former slave territories. Her crew was mixed: humans, Vorthans, Altarians, and freed slaves from a dozen other species. They worked together to keep the peace and help rebuild damaged worlds. Captain, said her science officer, a Vorthan named Kexville, we are receiving a distress call from the Centauri sector. Mitchell checked her star charts. That is outside Alliance space. Probably pirates trying to restart the slave trade. Kexville's 6 legs clicked on the deck as he moved to his station. Should we respond? Of course, Mitchell replied. The Alliance Charter says we protect everyone, not just our members. This was the new reality in the galaxy. The Free Alliance did not just defend its own territory. Their ships patrolled everywhere, stopping pirates, rescuing the oppressed, and spreading the message of freedom. Some species complained that humans were forcing their values on everyone else. But most beings welcomed the protection and the chance to live without fear. Dr. Sandra Lee worked in her laboratory on the medical station orbiting Earth. She was studying the biology of the newly contacted species, trying to understand how to help them. Many of the freed slaves suffered from diseases and injuries caused by years of poor treatment. Doctor, said her assistant, a young Altarian named Savara, the latest group of refugees is responding well to treatment. Their wounds are healing. Lee smiled. Good, send them to the education centers when they are ready. They need to learn about their rights and freedoms. This was another part of the new order. Beings who had been slaves for generations did not automatically know how to be free. The Alliance had built schools and training centers to help them learn new skills and understand their options. Some former slaves chose to return to their home worlds. Others decided to join the Alliance military or civilian services. A few even became ambassadors and leaders themselves. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about humanity. The species from the small blue planet did not seek conquest or domination. They fought for something more dangerous to tyrants: They fought for the idea that all thinking beings deserved freedom. Admiral Morrison stood in his office on Luna Base, looking out at the stars. Ships from dozens of species moved through Earth's solar system, carrying trade goods, refugees, and diplomats. The space around Earth had become one of the busiest places in the galaxy. His aide, Captain Gary Phillips, brought him the daily reports. Sir, 3 more systems have applied to join the Alliance. The Vegan Republic has agreed to release their remaining slaves. And the Hegemony of 5 is asking for peace talks. Morrison nodded. Any word from the outer territories? Yes, sir. Captain Foster reports that piracy is down 60% in the rim sectors. The slave traders are running out of places to hide. Morrison thought about John Blake and what he would think of all this. The ambassador had wanted humans to join galactic civilization peacefully. Instead, his death had forced them to reshape that civilization entirely, but Morrison believed Blake would approve. The galaxy was finally becoming the place Blake had imagined, a community of free beings working together for the common good. Send a message to all Alliance fleets, Morrison ordered. Tell them to keep up the good work, and remind them why. We are out there because every being in this galaxy deserves the same chance at freedom that we have. The message went out to thousands of ships across hundreds of star systems. Human vessels and their alien allies continued their patrol, protecting the weak and spreading the light of freedom to every corner of the galaxy. John Blake's sacrifice had not been in vain. His death had awakened humanity's sense of justice and inspired them to fight for something greater than themselves. The galaxy would never again allow the strong to crush the weak in darkness and silence. Humanity had arrived among the stars not as conquerors, but as liberators. And the universe was a better place because of it.